Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fantasy Cricket Podcast. I'm Nick, as ever, joined by Azza, and we are continuing with IPL team previews. Today, we're going to be covering Mumbai, officially known in the IPL as the Mumbai Indians, and you know, the best team in the history of the tournament, always there and thereabouts, looking strong again towards the end of the IPL before it was unfortunately halted. What are your
Yep.
thoughts, Azza? Welcome.
Hi, Nick. Again, welcome to everyone for this team-wise quick preview. Mumbai, yeah, you said it already. They've got star power packed, so it's going to take us a little bit longer to get through this squad. But let's get into it. There's a lot of exciting players to talk about.
Yeah,
Well,
Azza,
yeah,
I just wanted to say you're right. They're a star-studded squad, and we're going through players, not ignoring everybody, but just some players naturally have stood out more so far.
yeah, absolutely. And that's true. I mean, some players have. So if we're looking at IPL 2021, the first half of the tournament, uh, Rahul Chahar has been a standout player for MI. MI started off a bit sluggishly in the tournament. They are picking up some pace, but Chahar has been a sort of standout player for them in these tough times. So I would say he's probably the pick of Mumbai players, and he's going into this tournament second half with a little bit more confidence. He's been picked in the India squad for the T20 World Cup, which is coming up shortly. So yeah, interesting to see how he plays. Yeah, and just one other thing, Nick. We're going to mention this a few times. This IPL edition being played in the UAE also bodes well for Chahar. It looks like these leggies tend to do quite well in terms of fantasy points, wickets in the UAE. For a lot of the teams, the leggies are the highest point scorers. If they're not the highest point scorers, they will be the highest bowling point scorers at least.
Yep, yep. Yeah, that's super. I think that's super important to
Yeah,
note. Um, okay, let's move forward then. Chahar's been the
yeah,
best so far. I think
yeah.
Pollard's been pretty close.
Pollard's been pretty good too.
Rohit Sharma's been pretty close as
Yeah,
well. Uh,
yeah. So,
who's disappointed you?
yeah, that's interesting, Nick. It's really hard to say that Hardik Pandya has disappointed me, but he has. You he's had an innings here and there where he's hit a few clean shots, but not really the Hardik Pandya that we expect. And we've seen Kieron Pollard really taking on that mantle. Pollard, Ishan Kishan, Surya Kumar, of course, they're taking on the mantle that Pandya had set for the last couple of seasons. So he has disappointed me. And to add on to his woes a little bit, he played a series or a tour of Sri Lanka where he didn't look very good either. So I'm not sure what's happening with Hardik, but yeah, I'm not sure going into the tournament I would be picking him in my main team. Uh, yeah, well, having said that, it's interesting, Nick, about how players do year on year. And if we look at, say, players in the UAE last year, was there anyone that stood out to you? What do you think about the Mumbai squad going into the UAE?
Well, last year Bumrah was fantastic in the UAE. Trent Bolt was fantastic. I mean, Bumrah got a total of something like 956 points. The bowlers did well, obviously, towards the back end of the tournament. Then you had players like Ishan Kishan, did the cock really step up. But I think Bumrah did really well last year in the UAE, and that's worth noting because Bumrah's bowling style isn't really affected by the pitches so much. In this, he's
True.
bowling a Yorker at 150 clicks. It doesn't matter what the surface is doing; he's taking that out of play. He's a very difficult bowler to get away, and I think I'm going to use this as maybe a little segue into into our maybe final point of discussion, where I think Bumrah, given his recent form in the Test series against England, given his past performance last year's IPL in the UAE, which was sort of around the same time as we're looking at now. All these things bode really well for I think Bumrah to perhaps be the player to watch for Mumbai.
Yeah,
What are your thoughts on that,
I
Azza?
wouldn't dispute that. It's just very difficult to pick a Mumbai player to watch because there's so many of them. On their day, any one of them can give you 100 points plus, and if you captain them, you're getting
Yeah,
200, 250 points. Very
yeah,
difficult every time I'm going into a fantasy cricket match with Mumbai. It's so difficult to balance it out. But we'll get into those nitty gritties as the tournament progresses. Bumrah is a good one. Trent Bolt for me is a very good pick as well to watch.
yeah.
He's well rested. Bumrah might be a little bit tired legs going into this tournament. So
Sure,
that's something that
sure.
worries me. But yeah, that's you said it all really. Just to round it up, Surya Kumar Yadav, he seems to have a superpower at this point in limited overs
Yeah.
cricket. So the fantasy points might not be bearing out how good he's become in the recent past, but he's become very, very good indeed.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. Um, Warranted a firm spot now in the Indian T20 side, so that definitely counts for something. As I think that's where we wrap up our little preview for
Yep.
Mumbai Indians. They're an IPL powerhouse, as everybody knows, and we'll continue watching how they progress throughout the tournament, and the viewers can tune in then.
Yep.
Thanks a lot, Azza. I have nothing else to say. Any closing remarks? Otherwise, it's goodbye
No,
from
that's it
us.
then. Goodbye, Nick.
Cheers, Azza. Take care. Thanks, listeners.